Welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. Delighted that you're with us. Today is Tuesday, April the 29th. We get to move forward as we look at the principles behind the codependence to interdependence workshop and tap into exactly what codependence is and look at some tools for moving through and out the other side of the codependent state. So delighted that you're with us. I am not sure today whether we can accept calls or not. So if you would decide to have a thought for us, if you'd like to share something with us, we would love to hear from you. Please hit that call button and let's see what happens. I know that the app designers have been working on the principles on the pardon me on the app, and we'll see how that unfolds. So I had someone who I have a couple of questions before we get started. So we'll go into those questions first, and then we'll check once more, roll over to the call-in line, and see if we've got somebody who has a thought for us before we move forward. So the question came in: if someone frees themselves from codependence and learns how to love themselves, what is the purpose of a romantic relationship? They wouldn't need to be in one, so why would they choose to be in one? So that was the first question we have. Got a couple of them. And my offering is that the objective of this work is not to discover or even attempt to love someone, remembering that love is a noun, it's not a verb. We've been tricked. We've been pushed off in a direction by a culture that has lost the meaning of the word love. That is an error. If you hold a newborn child and you tap into that newborn child, what you'll very quickly discover is that the newborn is the presence of love. And if you ask yourself the question, as you go back and imagine yourself, remember holding that newborn, tapping into their essence, and you discover that the essence of that newborn is love, that that's the fact of human life, then you ask yourself the question, is the newborn loving me? Or is the newborn love? It becomes really clear. The newborn is not loving you. The newborn is the presence of love. We live in a culture, I would offer, whose specialty is to kick the awareness of ourselves as love out of us. And then at some point, in those teen years, sends us out the door to find somebody to love. In fact, remember that song. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? No, you don't. But if you believe that love is something you're going to get from someone else, something you're going to give from someone else, if you've been taught you're void of it and you're going to get it from somebody else, you're in for some tough times in relationships. The objective of this work is to discover yourself as the active presence of love. And then once you've discovered yourself as the active presence of love, you have been given this awesome gift of getting to this state of attraction to another person, ideally who has discovered themselves as love, and or if you are attracted to someone in relationship where you neither you nor they have discovered themselves as love, then you'll probably find yourself in a relationship based in matching bags of garbage. That's that to a great degree in our culture today, because the real meaning of the word love has been lost. That's really what a lot of people are in, relationships based in matching bags of garbage. And if they wake up, then they have the opportunity to support each other in that journey of undoing everything inside themselves that is unlike love and supporting each other in that journey of discovery of the truth of who we are. And then the beauty that comes is this romantic aspect of life, that we've been given this awesome gift of the delight that comes in a relationship that's based in each person discovering themselves as the active presence of love. And we were given this wondrous gift that the world calls sexuality. Now, it's interesting. We live in a culture whose basic philosophy for most people, what we've been given is, sex is dirty, save it for the one you love, as opposed to an awesome gift that been given to enjoy with each other. And if you came from one of those areas of the culture where the basic thought is sex is dirty, save it for the one you love, and that's usually based in the religions, unfortunately, the wayward religions. If you go back and you listen to the book that most are supposedly following, you find the creator saying about this whole bugaboo that's been made, this whole insanity. The only people who are saying things like sex is dirty, save for the one you love, are the people who haven't worked out their own sexuality and haven't discovered that it's a gift given to us by the creator. But in that book, you hear the creator saying around this whole guilt trip that's been laid on people, the creator says, who told you you were naked? It's like the creator's like, where did you get that garbage? It was a gift that you were given. And when you live in that gift, then life becomes a whole different process, becomes a whole different game. So that wondrous gift, once you discover who you are as the active presence love, is one that was given to us as humans, my take, by the creator to be delighted and enjoyed. And then following up after some conversation with the young lady who asked that question, the note that was sent following it was renewing my commitment to myself every day has been helpful when deciding how to respond in my romantic relationship. I now see that I was being selfish, wanting other people to meet my needs instead of meeting my own. Hence, wanting others to cherish me without cherishing myself. What a brilliant insight to catch that. Like, you know, sadly, that awareness has been taken away from us in many cases by the culture. And then we're looking for someone else to fulfill it. So I now know that when I cherish myself, it activates love in me and it helps me to share that love with someone else. These ideas and strategies have been invaluable. I particularly like that they're centered around the self and does not require force. There's a great quote that comes from, oh, let me get my brain to his name. Charlie Chaplin. At least it's attributed to Charlie Chaplin. And he says, love is enough for anything you want to do. Power is only desired by those who intend to do harm. Words to that effect. Love is enough for anything you want to do. That other power hungry game, that comes from the world of harm. And we suggest that you give up all forms of harm, self or others, in thought, word, action, or appearance, because those energies that cause harm never belong within your human structure. In fact, the energies that cause harm in the ancient Aramaic language were called sin. And of course, that's another thing that's been turned into a big bugaboo, guilt and sin and all of that. But the word sin, when you go back to the Aramaic in its original form, the word is simply an archery term. If you went onto the archery range with your bow and arrow and you fired at the bullseye, and when you fired that arrow, you missed the bullseye, the scorekeeper would yell sin, which means nothing other than you've missed the mark. And then there's a second word that relates to that word sin in the Aramaic. And again, it's been a big bugaboo. The Greeks just put so much tragedy into so many words, twisted so many things from the original teachings that were in presented originally in the Aramaic. But if you fired at the target and you not only missed the target, but you missed the or pardon me, you not only missed the bullseye, but you missed the target altogether. The word that was used to describe that was evil. So not some big bugaboo as the Greeks have given it to us. It's just, are you off the mark? Did you miss the target altogether? Then take another shot. Bring some correction, not fall into the guilt, the trauma, and the drama. Because when you engage in an energy that's off the mark, relative, when you think of your body mind unit as an energy system, if you listen to Einstein, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy. Energy whose vibrations have been so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. We don't live in a material world. The idea of matter is nothing but an idea in the mind that obeys and shows us things falsely. We live in an energetic world. And relative to this integrated energy system that we call our body mind unit, there are basically two qualities of energy. There are those which build it up, integrative energy, or sin, those which tear it down, disintegrative energy. And the reason we were warned about sin is because if you engage in an energy that's off the mark, you recognize, you hold a newborn and you get it. This is love. Then you realize human physiology is designed to incarnate, to embody the active presence of love. In fact, human life is, at least the best definition I've been able to come up with yet, is that human life is love flowing through a cell. Anything we do to interfere with love flowing through our cellular structure would be properly called in the Aramaic language sin. Not something to be guilty about or beat yourself up for. Being guilty about it and beating yourself up for it just adds another layer of disintegrative energy to the process. But rather to recognize, I'm engaging in an energy that doesn't belong here. And what I need to do is I need to be about removing that energy that doesn't belong, the sin, the energy that destroys. Now, once again, Greek mythology has taken the place of Aramaic teachings. And we've been taught that, of course, if you're in pain, and pain is nothing more than a signal that you're engaging in sin. Pain is nothing more than a signal that you put an energy into a structure that doesn't belong there. It's like this warning sign that says, hey, pay attention. This is not how it's supposed to work. And so if you engage in energies off the mark, the Greeks said, well, then of course you don't have to look at yourself. Don't pay attention to yourself. Don't hold yourself accountable. Blame somebody else. And then, of course, seeing as how it's all their fault, now that we've convinced you to become a member of the one world universal religion of guilt, fault, and blame, then if they do something that causes you pain, then you forgive them. As opposed to understanding that if there's somebody out there that does something that resonates the energies of that are painful in you, they are not cause, but in fact, in many cases, the person who the world would call causes that in me, they're the gift, attracted, literally attracted by the very energy of my pain to resonate my pain for me, to show me what it is that I'm doing to myself so that I can apply forgiveness, actual forgiveness, that is the removal of that pained energy that I've just become aware of. Now we've got a coherent system of understanding of this human energy field. And then we have another question. Let me see. It's a note that Jeannie was just handed to me. I don't necessarily know whether I should ask this on the show. I don't want to interject a lesson. Michael's not attempting to teach. He mentions how uncanceled goal is damaging on a tissue level. And then she says, I haven't quoted that verbatim, maybe in error. Something is damaging on a tissue level. My understanding is that unforgiveness is damaging on a tissue level. So that's just a shade off of what I would offer. So Uncanceled goals do not cause damage on a tissue level. And unforgiveness does not cause damage on a tissue level. However, holding on to an energy in tissue, let's say in a system you recognize is designed for love, holding to hate, fear, criticism, condemnation, gossip, slander, vengeance, holding those energies, the fact that they are resident in tissue, there is damage being done. If I set a goal that calls one of those energies into play, i.e., I set a goal and it resonates more intensely, that disintegrative energy, then it is the resonance of that disintegrative energy activated by the goal that's going to do damage on a tissue level. It's not setting the goal itself, but I can set a goal that resonates it more deeply, therefore intensifies the damage that's already being done. And then it isn't the unforgiveness that causes the damage, it's the fact of that energy held somewhere within the structure. In order to think a thought, thought is energy. Thought is the motion of electrons. And if there's an energetic pattern of electrons moving in a way that damages tissue, then the application of forgiveness is how I reach inside myself and remove that energy. And the reason why we look at this idea of canceling goals is that when we set a goal, that goal recruits certain energies into activity within us. The functioning purpose of the mind, once we engage in a stress by setting a goal, the functioning purpose of the mind is to show us how to achieve that goal. If the energy that moves in me that shows me how to achieve that goal is sin energy, is energy that's off the mark, then I would do well to cancel the goal, which means that the perceptual construct that is attempting to show me how to achieve this goal. Let's say, you know, my goal is there's something going on with somebody in the world, and I decide that I need to control them, so I want to control them. I load that goal in my mind, and let's say my power person dynamic, we'll put this in the context of codependence and the power person dynamic. Let's say my power person dynamic was, whenever my power person dynamic wanted to control me, they used rage. Well, then probably stored in my structure, there's some of the sin called rage. And when I go, oh, I need to control that person, that power person dynamic is going to come into play, and rage is what I'm going to use in order to control them. If I recognize that process happening, then by canceling the goal, in the Aramaic language, the word forgive is shabag or shabak, and it literally means to cancel. So if I cancel that goal, the perceptual construct showing me that I should be using, rage to control them, that thing collapses. And when it collapses, you'll notice that before you do the step of canceling the goal on the worksheet process, if you're in the app or wherever, you'll notice that the step before canceling the goal is bringing active love present, stepping back to literally, purposely tapping into and bringing to the forefront the actual energy of which we are made, then canceling the goal. When I cancel that goal, the goal being the driver that's recruited, my mind, my mind's advice that I should use rage to control them, my power person dynamic running me. When I cancel that goal, that advice of my mind, that perceptual construct, collapses in on itself the underlying rage that is what is doing the tissue damage. And if love is active and present at the moment where that perceptual construct collapses as a result of forgiveness, then I can embrace that part of me that holds this power person dynamic of control through rage. I can hold that literal energy in the presence of love. And if I'm breathing, then the breath delivers the presence of love into that sin energy and begins its dissolution. It's how one removes or gets rid of that energy that's off the mark within one's own mind. So the question goes on and says, I would love for this to be explained further. I hope that fits and makes sense. How does the damage form? Well, if I hold an energy in tissue that doesn't belong in tissue, just the presence of it is causing it's an incoherent energy. Let's use an example. I'm sitting watching television, and somebody pulls into my driveway with a very poorly tuned car. Now, a poorly tuned car emits frequencies. Now, not so much today with all the electronics on cars, but let's go back a few years. A poorly tuned car emits a lot of uh, incoherent frequencies relative to the television antenna and the signal it's receiving. So somebody, if you remember, and again, it's not so much with the newer cars, but with the older cars, somebody pulled in the driveway and you knew where they were there because all of a sudden your TV went nuts. All of this incoherent, or what we could say, relative to watching the picture and hearing a quality sound, that poorly tuned car emits a frequency that is sin that creates all this incoherence in the television set, the dis-ease of the picture. I can't see it, can't hear it properly. So that's how the damage forms, just by putting that energy into tissue. So the next thought in the question is, what exactly are we supposed to do to prevent damaging our physical body? Well, the best thing I know of is function as a human being, that you put literally all of your effort toward living as a human being. Again, I mentioned earlier, the best definition I've been able to come up with of life is that life is love flowing through a cell. Anything we do to inhibit life, love, the truth of who we are, flowing through our own cellular structure is going to create damage. Removing, forgiving those energies, that's exactly what one would do to prevent damaging one's own body. So, what does this mean in terms of receiving a diagnosis of a disease? Well, be very careful because this word diagnosis has taken on a very official posture in our culture. And sometimes it's there to sell things more than it is to really tell the truth. If you break the word diagnosis down, an agnostic is someone who doesn't know, and a dyad is two, diagnostic, two who don't know. Make sure you question very carefully. It can be helpful if you've got a really good diagnostician, but you'll notice if you go to a dozen different diagnosticians, you'll probably get at least 5 or 6 or 7 different diagnoses. So it's not as official as it seems to be, but be aware that if you have a diagnosis, that okay, so now there's symptoms, there's a dis-ease process, and let's put a hyphen in that word, dis-ease. The first thing that warns us is something's going awry physiologically is there some form of mental, emotional, or physiological pain. Pain, most people roll along doing whatever their power person instilled in them, being run by those dynamics, which we just went through the power person worksheet, with the objective of giving tools for being able to observe what I'm doing to myself and being able to change the game. So if you don't even need to have a diagnosis if you notice, gee, I've got some pain going on. What's the purpose of pain? My offering is that pain's purpose is to make your ears grow, to get you to listen to what you're doing to yourself. If I'm watching TV and I noticed all this noise in the picture, it's snowy, it's blurry, it's flipping around, the sound is terrible, I'm going to start looking around for what's the incoherent energy? What's the dis-ease energy that's disturbing my picture? And I discover that, Uncle John just drove in the driveway with his old, farm heap, and it's distorting my TV signal. Well, in the same way, if I notice that there are symptoms going on in me, then I'm going to start to look at what are the incoherent energies that I'm engaging in? What is it in me that's creating this dis-ease condition? And what am I going to do to remove it, to apply forgiveness to it? Would be my offering. So how can that disease, once apparent, be healed without treatment from a doctor? Well, very often, one of the beauties of doctors is they have some experience. And my offering would be, first and foremost, never allow a doctor's experience to override your own inner knowing that you are the owner of your form. And be aware that, I mean, if you just sit and watch, turn on the TV and watch. One of the things we rarely tune into a television station. Why? Because probably, I don't know what percentage, 50, 60, maybe 70% of commercials are about, now they say it's about drug commercials. No, they're not drug commercials. Give a listen. They are not drug commercials. They are commercials selling diseases. You notice that they'll give you a strong, emotionally charged visual image of someone in trauma and pain. You'll hear the crying voice of someone who's suffering from the ABC disease. And what's being sold is the mind energy of disease. Be careful and make sure you know how to cancel the energetic patterns that don't belong within your system. So once a parent, what do? Well, find the best professional help that you can, take responsibility for your life, and start to move those things out of your structure that don't belong there. And, you know, we are beings that live on this physiological level, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. And so my offering would be, and you're saying, what if the doctor says it's incurable? An organ has to be removed. Well, I'd offer make sure that the person who's diagnosing is truthful and honest in what they're telling you and really has the skills to be creating that diagnosis. And from there, look for the best professional support you can for doing your own inner work. Remember that if we go to the opening words in the book of John, it does not say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh, as we're told it says. It says, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. I would offer that the first disturbance in every so called dis-ease condition physiologically starts with what we take in through our minds. And to start to take charge of our minds and learn how to clean our minds up becomes key. So that would be the first order of business. And yes, find the best medical support that you can find and be careful what you become subject to, how you allow yourself to become subjective to the mind energy of others, whether it's the television set or the doctor or, the guy down the block, because someone can implant. I'd offer that many more people die from the implanted ideas that come from others, the mind energy, the dis-ease mind energy of others, including the television set. I think we're the only country in the world that allows the wholesale selling of disease to happen through our medium of advertising, our television sets, our radios, our newspapers, our magazines. Be careful what is implanted there and refrain from engaging. And Miss Jeannie, you have a thought for us?
Well, when you finish that, go off and back on if you're not seeing callers and comments.
Okay, cool. So Jeannie said we've got callers and comments. So give me a moment. I've got another thought or two to answer from this, and we'll roll over to that. So any kind, and so the the young lady who wrote this says, any guidance you give me be appreciated, and enjoyed the show today, and informed me about many levels. All the while I'm listening, I have this reverberating thought of me not practicing the teachings as much as I should is causing me to destroy my body. Well, be careful and be gentle with yourself. One of the first messages that most people get from their power person is something about being broken, that you're not good enough, you'll never be good enough. That's like one of the most common power person messages. I can't tell you how many people over the years I've listened to, and they'll say things about themselves. I'm stupid. Oh, I'm so bad. I deserve this kind of treatment. Here's the truth about you. You are made of the active presence, literally the active presence of the love of God. Period. That's what you and I are made of. Every one of us. We are all the offspring of the Creator. And so begin to look at, go back. I think Jeannie said we've done 10 shows on that power person worksheet. Go back and look at, is this thought of destroying yourself, is this a reflection of a power person message that was given to you? And is it time to be about forgiving that, removing that? And remember the opening of the workshop, or the radio shows, the mind shifter shows that we've done on the power person worksheet, which I promise I'm on the verge of sending out, but uh, I've been doing quite a bit of work on it and making creating some refinements to it. But remember the opening of that first show, and this statement appears at the very top. When you get to it, it'll be on the website. We'll be sending out a newsletter. If you're not on a newsletter and you'd like to be, probably within the next 48 hours, we'll be sending us out via newsletter. If you go to our website, whyagain.org, whyagain.org, scroll down the page, and at the bottom of the page, you'll see sign up for our newsletter. Make sure your email's in there, and when this goes out, you'll get a link to all of the shows that we did on the power person dynamic and a copy of that latest worksheet. So make sure that you're on the mailing list for that. So aren't we safer when we continue to suppress our trauma? Well, let's use an example. Let's use a metaphor for that. I've been working in the garden, and I'm in and out of the house, and there's, there's some bugs that have come in on my shoes, and there's dirt, and there's such. Well, suppressing trauma would be me like saying, well, yeah, some bugs came in on my shoes and some dirt came in. Let me just get a broom and sweep it under the carpet. Let me suppress it. I'll just hide it away. Well, if I do that over a period of years in my house, what's going to happen? The bugs are going to multiply. There's going to be an ample food supply for all kinds of critters to come in and destroy the house. So suppressing trauma is like putting that under the rug. That's what will create damage. If something resonates trauma in you, the first place you want to go is into the breath, calling on, bringing forward the presence of active love, and embracing, holding in love, whatever that trauma is. The Grand Canyon was carved up by the flow of water over a period of eons. If you have inhibited human life in your structure, i.e., you've engaged in sin, which has blocked the flow of love, then my offering would be reopen the flow, be willing to connect to yourself as the presence of love, and be willing to roll back the rug and look at whatever traumas are there, because that flow of love through the cell, active present love, is the master solvent for all trauma. The longer you carry trauma in a cell, the more that cell is going to deteriorate. The faster you face the trauma in that cell, embrace the trauma in that cell, expose it to the presence of love in breath, the faster that trauma is going to dissolve from your structure. So the statement, aren't we safer when we continue to suppress our trauma because then the tissue damage doesn't occur? No, it's the fact that it's in the tissue that is doing the damage. Bringing it forward in the presence of breath and active love is what creates the dissolution and creates the healing. And so they'd be my thoughts for you on that. And if there are any other thoughts, you're certainly welcome to put them in the chat room or push that call button and let's have a conversation about it. And so I'm going to head to the chat room. Jeannie tells me there's a caller there, and let's see how we do. We'll check again. Moderator's telling us that we'll check if you push that call button once again. Would be delightful to have a conversation with you. Camille is saying, my son is experiencing ouch, kidney stones. I've given him an herbal stone breaker and I've asked him to visualize the dissolution of the stones. His doctor is scheduled for him surgery next week. I'm doing forgiveness, not sure if I'm doing it correctly for him. Any suggestions? Well, there are times, let me use another metaphor here. I've run into people who are into the psychic realm and they say, well, I know that that people can move matter with their minds. So there's a glass of water there and I want to drink, and I'm going to pick that glass up with my mind and drink that water. Well, you may die of starvation, or pardon me, of thirst, before you pick that glass of water. Maybe it's possible to do it. But in the meantime, the creator gave you a hand, reach over, pick up the glass. And so if we've been given medical professionals who, if we trust them, can really be of powerful support. Yes, do all of the above. And if there's something that is threatening on a physiological level, then my offering would be find someone who understands how to work on a physiological level to support you in the healing of whatever that disease process is. Allende. Hey, young man, how are you?
Well, they say if you don't use
Thank you
your
for that
product,
tip,
you don't.
by the way, of shutting the app down and reopening it because I can see you now. Awesome.
Absolutely.
You're
Hope
loud and clear,
everything's.
Allende. Go ahead. You've disappeared. Are you still with
Um,
us, Allende?
I am certainly with you. How are you?
I am well. How are you, sir?
I'm incredible. I just wanted to thank you for doing the show. I'm going to clear the phone lines. I just wanted to let everybody know that everything is working and ready for their input. Um, I'm amazed
Awesome.
at your show every day, and I listen to it every day, not because I have to, but just because I love it. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
Delighted. Delighted that you're providing the listening ears. Our ultimate vision and goal is to take these tools to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And I know that doesn't mean that everybody's going to hear my voice, but enough voices who hear it and amplify it and pass it on is what's going to expand it globally. And that's our vision. So thanks for supporting it. We
Uh,
appreciate you a lot.
Great reminder to hit that share button while we're listening. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes. If, all right. Blessings. If you have a comment for us, please hit that call button or put it in the chat and we'll have a conversation.